My name is Tony Hurd. Grew up in San Francisco, born and raised up on Potrero Hill, and then moved into the Mission District at a young age and been here ever since. Growing up as a kid, I seen containers down on the docks, and I was amazed when I seen them. I was given 2 containers and just totally fell in love with them, because once I started cutting holes open, everything went from there, mushroomed from there. I started using material that I had in my garage, windows, leftover windows, and things like that. So most of them were created from resources that I had and resources that I got from resource centers. Yeah, I first started thinking about pods about 4 years ago when I went outside to read the newspaper. Too windy, uncomfortable. I had the sun, but it just was uncomfortable. So I said, I'm gonna make a pod so when I sit in here and read the paper, I'm comfortable. I created a pod really basically for my outdoor living situation. I like to read newspapers and stay warm. In my breezeway, it was just that, a breezeway. It was too windy, so I made this pod, and the rest is, history. Well, it's some of the things that I get from the resource places, I see things that are vintage, like I'm a vintage type of a guy. I like the old and, something different from that you never see. And that's where they came from. There's art in my family background. My father was a sculptor and my uncle is an artist, does abstract stuff. But I didn't do that because they did it. Because it was, in my blood, if you want to say. I just like doing that type of stuff. But it was the stuff that I got from those centers that I liked. I loved what I seen, and now they all go together. So maybe that made that artistic look, some of it, but it's from friends that one gave me a stained glass window, and and then I build off of that. You could take any of these pods in any situation and loop them together, and you will create your bedroom, your dining room, your kitchen, and your living room. There's a market for outdoor environments now as we speak. They're called parklets, and they're like up on Valencia Street. There's a coffee shop, and they have a little parklet out in the street where the meters are. The city, they say, okay, you have this space, and if the owner wants it, they purchase it. So I'm thinking about, doing something like that. Everything is watertight. You have to have everything right before you put them out there, I like to create all kinds of pods. I really enjoy them because I feel like, they're a part of me, one, and I want it to feel like if I'm living in a house. Whatever I'm feeling or whatever material I have, that's what I use, All my pods have windows or openings of some sort. I like the windows that I put in there because they're special to me. Some of these windows do things that you don't normally see them do. They'll tilt out, they open wide with a screen on the outside, and it just really feels like, you're in a house. Well, when I go to places like Builders Resources or Scrap, there's always something laying around, and I'll look at it and say, wow, what a waste, or I can do something with that. My pods are made out of the same things you see in warehouses, made out of steel racks, and they all come together like Legos, and you put them together and you can take them apart. That's the beauty of it. We're here outside my container, and I've had these containers for 4 years, and slowly, as the days went by, I would add to it, and now it's either a place to live or art studio, or whatever you want to use it for. These are regular containers that you see coming across the bay on ships, stacked 7 high, and what I did with mine was cut windows out, doorways, and added things that you would in a normal house. Some people like the containers without decoration. I like it with decoration, and I did it to show my customers what your container could look like. Well, my plants are honoring my mother, who's passed away, and she always loved plants, and we never had a big place for plants at our house. We lived in an apartment, so this is my, you know, a gift to my mother. That's why I have so many plants. I love plants. My mother loved plants. My grandmother loved plants. When I go to resource centers, like building resources, urban ore, I see things there and I say, hey, wow, that's cool. That'll make a nice planter box. And we'll use it as a planter box. I got sewer tubes, cut them in half, flip them over, threw some dirt in it, and there's a planter box. You know, I really like to be creative with planters because, you know, I find a whole bunch of things that are just perfect for containers, and they're just sitting around not being used, and that's what I do. You know, I'll take something that's not usable and make it usable. I use sewer tubes, barrels, stainless steel drums. I have one container that's made out of a washing machine. So, you know, whatever I see that can contain, then I'll use that for a planter box. I love remnants. I love remnants. I don't waste nothing. I'll cut the piece out, it'll fall on the floor, I'll pick it up, and I'll put it on the wall over here, and I'll take the main cutting and I'll put it on this side. And I don't waste nothing. And if it's steel, I'll take it out and put it out in the rain, and it'll constantly change on a weekly basis because of the patina and the rusting. Windows are a key component to my containers because they let light in, and with the light, they show so much. They bring out the character of the container, and it's beautiful. Yeah, I started getting benches at the flea market, and then as we were building this place, I would have a lot of leftover Ipe siding, short pieces, and I would make benches out of those. We didn't waste anything. We used the material, whatever we had left over, we'd make a bench, or we would make a planter box, and so on. You know, nothing's wasted here. I had an idea because my plants were dying. So I said, where could I put the plants that would keep them alive? And the only place would be on top of the roof. So I needed to put a greenhouse in order to achieve that. I created a gazebo because I had the glass, and it was beautiful glass, and I had to do something with it. So I said, well, let's make a gazebo. We had leftover material, and it worked out fine. And on top of the gazebo, there's cuttings that I designed a flower pattern, and it was cut out of steel, and that's the design. Next to the gazebo is another area that was just a little too windy. So I said, let me put a wall up, and I put the wall up, and then I took some storage racks that normally go on a storage rack, and I made planters on top of that. And the wall itself is made out of the plexiglass, and it really keeps the place warm inside, stops the wind, and I decided to decorate it with some plants I hung on the side of some storage racks. Well, I got benches and containers, like you said. The containers are sewer tubes that we cut in half and put a bottom in and created planter boxes. And the bench itself is leftover material from our hardwood floor up on top. I mean, from the deck up on top. So remnants from the floor. So we used everything, and these containers will last forever, and so will this. This is Ipe siding. Ipe siding, my friend said, when the world comes to an end, the only two things left are cockroaches and Ipe siding. And right here we have my favorite part is sliding door. Sliding door, we had a track that we got from a job that someone threw out, and we put it above our door, and now we have a sliding door. People walk in here and they don't even know where the door is. This is a shutter window. It acts as an insulator, keeps the cold out, and when we go away, and it sets on the track also. It's a great piece to have. Looks like one piece, looks like no window has ever been there. Resources, it makes sense. That's how I feel about it. Why spend money on something brand new with no character when you can get used things that actually look good for less of a cost. Yeah, and if anybody's interested in building a container, you got to get a little creative, but it's not impossible. There's a lot of good stuff out there at these resource places, and all you got to do is go and see what you need that will work in your container. In closing, my message to someone that wants to build their own house or container and do what I've done is don't be afraid. It's not impossible, and actually it's more doable.